Here is our world, our planet Earth, floating in space. We will be going backward in time, imperfectly, but done in a very disciplined manner. Please notice there is no subduction, no rotation of tectonic plates, no twisting, no form-fitting, no altering shapes or sizes. It would be impossible for these continental plates to fit together perfectly without this being true, and yet the upper tectonic plates fit together perfectly on a much smaller planet.
And you drink it straight from the bottle no matter where you are?
Yes!
Drink beer straight from a bottle? Brilliant!
There is a kind of conspiracy of silence among certain scientists. They know but are not telling you that the upper tectonic plates of Earth also join in the Pacific. Not partially, they join totally. You are asked to believe that the continents swim or drift about willy-nilly, bumping and crashing as if they were on a greased skillet.
No, you aren't asked to believe anything, because plate tectonics isn't a belief system based on faith. It's simply a scientific theory that explains a whole host of geologic data. And it's obvious at this point that Neal has adopted the creationist playbook as his very own. The first thing he does is claim there's a conspiracy afoot by the world scientific community to suppress the truth. Apparently, Neal thinks there's a sinister cadre of scientists in the world who are secretly determined to protect plate tectonics, for unknown reasons, against the overwhelming evidence for his expanding Earth theory. Whereas if someone could write a scientifically defensible paper demonstrating that an expanding Earth better explains all of our physical data than does plate tectonics, they'd immediately become the most famous, most renowned scientists on the planet.
For hundreds of millions of years, the bottom of Africa was the South Pole. South America's tail goes under and wraps around the bottom of Africa. Then incredibly, it joins coast with Antarctica. 65 million years ago and more, these continents were joined, and marsupials like the duck-billed platypus roamed from Australia, Antarctica, and across southern South America and up into Africa.
It is perhaps an indication of Neal's general level of scientific knowledge that he is unaware of the simple fact that duck-billed platypuses are not, in fact, marsupials, they're monotremes.
Dinosaurs roamed all over this world on the upper tectonic plate because there were no oceans, just shallow seas.
Here Neal is oversimplifying and demonstrates something of a lack of knowledge of Mesozoic paleogeography, whereas it's true that at various times in Mesozoic species roamed widely. For instance, Coelophysis is found on multiple continents, Bladiosaurus as well. At various times, bits and pieces of the continents were geographically isolated long enough for dinosaurs to evolve in their own unique ways. For instance, North African dinosaurs of the early Jurassic are quite unique. Late Cretaceous dinosaurs in South America, again, geographically isolated and evolved in their own unique ways.
Here today, Antarctica is frozen over, and Australia and its surrounding islands are the remaining home of marsupials. Do you see how broadly the Pacific is opening compared to the Atlantic? This is exactly why the knee-jerk Pangea theory exists.
Knee-jerk Pangea theory? That's a rather silly assertion. Actually, the Pangea idea arose from simple recognition that there were commonalities of rock sequences between now widely dispersed continents, commonalities between mountain ranges that are now widely dispersed between continents. It explains paleobiogeography quite well, and it explains the occurrence of certain rock types in a variety of locations. It also explains why the continental land masses now are made up of rocks that are of widely divergent age.
The Pacific spread is too difficult to easily visualize because it's so big.
Actually, the reason it's difficult to visualize is it doesn't work. For whatever his claims in his videos, Neal heavily massages the data to make it appear to work. For instance, altering continental margins to make them fit neatly. He also ignores a host of known physical facts. For example, the simple fact that Asia is an assembly of many continental fragments that were gradually accreted through time, and their most ancient rocks have nothing in common. They're quite different physically and chemically.
The Atlantic spread is so obvious that a child would recognize it, but they are the same.
This has absolutely nothing to do with the value of Neal's ideas, but I want to ask, what's with the fucking Rossini?
Check this map out. The Navy and others took core samples to find the ages of the sea bottom. Lo and behold, no part of the undersea was found to be much older than 70 million years old. Does that shock you? It should. It shocked the scientists.
Yeah, in the 1960s, and it was one of the bits of data that demonstrated the validity of plate tectonics.
As we go back in time, we go backward in our rainbow, orange, yellow, green.
Red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange and blue.
Is this a joke? This is perfectly consistent with plate tectonics. New oceanic crust is created at the mid-ocean ridges. Eventually, it gets subducted beneath the continents and reincorporated into the mantle. What the hell is the problem? Of course the ocean basins are relatively young.
Where do they get ancient fish fossils from? From the land, like in Mississippi and Utah and France and China. Most of the undersea wasn't there 70 or 80 million years ago.
There's a natural bias in the fossil record towards shallow marine environments, which in the geologic past at various times have been far more extensive than today. Sidebar, Neal. When you decided to use music in this video, did you make a conscious effort to choose the cheesiest classical war horses you could find?
20 million? I'm not making this information up.
You're just ignoring the fact that it's already explained by plate tectonics.
Why does the scientific community desperately cling to and promote the idea that the ocean bottom is sliding under the continents and into a magma which is twice as dense as solid granite?
Most likely because, first of all, the oceanic crust was extruded from the mantle, and it's therefore far denser than the granitic rocks of the continents. And secondly, because we have good physical data illustrating the fact that oceanic crust is being subducted beneath continents at subduction zones.
They have to. Or else they'd have to observe and admit that the Earth is growing. And that, viewers, is a very big deal. That would change everything in science, from the smallest particle to the whole universe. 100 years of scientific theory out the window.
Again with the conspiracy theories. Way back when Wegener first proposed continental drift, he had no mechanism by which it took place. Therefore, the idea wasn't taken very seriously. But one idea that was promoted by a number of people was the idea that the Earth was expanding. As we gained more information, we found more data, particularly after World War II, we realized that was not a valid concept. If it were a valid concept, I think I can assure you that an ambitious scientist would publish the data. Now, with regard to that data about subduction zones, if you look at profiles showing oceanic continental margins, you often find deep trenches. Utilizing seismic data from earthquakes, we can map subduction beneath continents at subduction zones. This methodology functions on the same principles as the methodology for mapping subsurface geology for petroleum exploration.
The North Pole. Man, I love this map so much.
I'm surprised that you are so enamored of that animation, because after asserting that your model doesn't rotate any continents, observe what's happening with Alaska.
You can continue to ignore the facts and say, as the ancients said, that the Earth is unique and singular in the universe, and that we are the center, and the universe rotates around the Earth.
In order to explain all the flaws in this idea, I'd probably need a full-length video at least 2 hours long. The first things that occur to me as a geologist are this has absolutely no explanatory power with regard to compressional geologic features, like mountain chains such as the Appalachians or the Rockies. It offers no explanation with regard to the mighty chains of volcanoes surrounding the Pacific, the so-called Ring of Fire. It offers no explanation of the formation of metamorphic rocks. It offers no explanation of the emplacement of gigantic granitic plutons, like the ones that make up the Sierra Nevada of California. In short, it's vastly inferior to plate tectonics, which offer pretty good explanations of all these things. Insofar as I'm concerned, Neal Adams is simply another YouTube gargler at the Fountain of Wisdom. He's clearly adopted the creationist playbook, in that one of the first things he did in this video was present a straw man version of what plate tectonics actually suggests. He also presents his idea for an expanding Earth as if it's a bold new idea, whereas in fact it's a very old, antiquated idea that has long since been debunked. Frankly, he reminded me a little of this guy.
No question, those things actually happen.